Hi third graders, I hope you're having a good day and I hope you're being good for your parents. I am here today to go through Guided Class Practice 96A with you. Guided Class Practice 96A. If you don't have it printed out at home, remember it is okay to use a piece of paper just to go through the problems with us together today. Alright, we're going to get started right away. Putting my name on my paper per normal. Okay, remember I don't have a ruler at home, so I can't measure this date line. Okay, but go ahead and take your time, pause this, measure that date line. Once you've measured it, you should get the answer 11 9/10 of a centimeter. That means that it's 11 centimeters, 9 millimeters. Okay, moving on to number 1. 7 children will share some pennies equally. If there are 240 pennies, how many pennies will each child get? Okay, let me circle some important information here. 7 children, 240 pennies. They're gonna share it equally. So in total, there's 240 pennies. We're splitting that up amongst 7 children. That means this is going to be a division problem. So I'm going to go over to my workspace, 240 on the inside. It's my number of pennies. I'm dividing that by the 7 children. Don't forget we're following our pattern of divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, or remainder. Okay, 2 divided by 7, I can't do that. So I'm going to have to look at 24 divided by 7. I know that 7 fits into 24 3 times. That was my divide. Now I'm moving down to my multiply. 3 times 7 is 21. Now I need to subtract. 24 minus 21 equals 3. Now I need to bring down. I'm going to bring down this 0. So now I have the number 30. I'm looking at 30 divided by 7. 7 fits into 34 times. 4 times 7 is 28. Now I have to subtract. 30 minus 28 equals 2. There's nothing left to bring down, so this must be my remainder. So right now my answer is 240 divided by 7 equals 34, remainder 2. I need to check that to be sure. I check it with multiplication. I take my answer, which is 34, and I times it by 7. 34 times 7. I got 238. I have to add in my remainder, which is 2. 240 there, 240 there. That means that my answer really is 34, remainder 2. Now I'm going to write this number sentence. Start out 240 pennies. Now I'm labeling with pennies because the question asks how many pennies will each child get. So I have 240 pennies. I'm dividing by the 7 children. And my answer is 34, remainder 2 pennies. Let's think about this problem logically. If I had those 240 pennies and I'm splitting it up amongst 7 children, how are they going to get a remainder 2? I want to split it up equally, meaning everybody gets the same amount. That means when it asks how many pennies will each child get, each child will only get 34 pennies. There will just be 2 extra pennies left over. So on my answer line, I'm going to write 34 pennies. Each child is only getting 34 pennies. Those other 2 pennies that are the remainder, they're just going to be left over. Okay, I'm moving on to number 2. This says circle the prime numbers. If you have your math student notebook at home and you'd like to use this, you can go to page 26 of your math student notebook. If you don't have a math student notebook at home, I would suggest taking out a piece of paper, or I'm using note cards because I ran out of pieces of paper at home, so I'm using note cards to take my notes on. Okay, so we're going to be talking about prime numbers. Now, what is a prime number? A prime number only has two factors, so I'm going to write that down. Prime number only has two factors. Now, what does that mean? That means that prime numbers, the only way to get them is to multiply that number times 1. There's no other multiplication problems out there that can get us those answers. So I'm going to think here. I'm going to show you my notes that I took about prime numbers. So if you watched Miss Kless's video last week, you know that these are some of our prime numbers. Okay, our prime numbers are 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, and 19. Why are they prime numbers? Because the only way to get these to be the answer of a multiplication problem is to times them by 1. So I'm going to try and think of all the multiplication problems in the world that I could do to get my answer to be 2. Oh, well, I can only get 1 times 2 and 2 times 1. Those are the only multiplication problems out there that will get me the answer of 2. That means that 2 is a prime number. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to circle that. Okay, now I'm looking at 3. For 3, the only problem out there that I can do to get 3 is 1 times 3 and 3 times 1. This means that it is also a prime number. All of these numbers listed here are prime numbers. The only way to get the answer is to times it by 1. That means that it only has two factors. The factors of the number 2 are 1 and 2. The factors of the number 3 are 1 and 3. Okay, going all the way down this list, it would be true for all of these. When I think of the number 19, think of what can I multiply together to get 19? The only answer is I could do 1 times 19 and 19 times 1. So 19 is also a prime number. I'm going to go through and I'm going to circle all of my prime numbers here. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, and 19. These are our prime numbers. Now I'm going to talk about numbers that are not prime. Okay, so I see many here like 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16, 18, and 20. These numbers are not prime because there are other things besides 1 that we can multiply to get these answers. So these are all of my not prime numbers. I have all of them listed down here. Now when I think of the number 4, I know that it's not prime because I could do 2 times 2. And I would get the answer 4. So 4 is not prime. I'm going to cross it off. 6. When I think of the number 6, I know that I could do obviously 1 times 6 and 6 times 1, but I could also multiply 3 times 2 and get 6. That means that 6 is not prime. You can see all my numbers listed here. These are not prime numbers because they have more than 2 factors, more than 2 things that you can multiply together to get those answers. Okay, you can look one time at my note cards here. Once again, these are my prime numbers, and these are my not prime numbers.